Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Last Epoch dev stream. I am your host, Mike, and let's hop right into things. We are still leveling our fancy druid here, who's doing quite well with his big purple sword. It's just reflecting from like some light here. Yeah, it's a fancy magic purple sword. All right, let's see where we were. Going to the necropolis. Happy New Year, Mr. Fibble. Glad to have you with us. Yeah, we missed the stream, didn't we? Not last stream, the stream before. Ah! I'm a bear! Roar! New bear's so good. Alright, well, welcome back everybody. We missed the stream and it was New Year's and Christmas and everything, so it was a little light in December with our charity, so we're gonna stick with the same charity for 2 months in a row here. We like them. We cut them a little short, so we're extended a little bit, you know. And yeah, keep playing our game. So if anyone has any questions, they want to know, hey Mike, why did you name it Warpath instead of Whirlwind, or anything about the game, feel free to ask and I will be happy to answer. Just tossing at Last Epoch game in the chat and I will see it real easy. Other than that, I'll just ramble and chat with you guys. It's been pretty cool watching the feedback from this latest patch, and I gotta say it's been very positive, which has been really nice to see. But there's also like a lot of really good ideas that I've seen pop up in like Reddit, Discord, Facebook. No, actually, I haven't checked Facebook much lately, but all of our various platforms. I've been seeing a lot of good suggestions. It's really cool to see a lot of good stuff coming out. It's neat. I like it. Oh, that Berserk is good. Why did you name it Warpath and not Whirlwind? Well, you know, it's so the Sentinel. So Whirlwind was a barbarian skill in Diablo 2, which Warpath is very similar to. And I think it comes down to class theming more than anything. So like the Sentinel was a soldier in Raya's army, and sort of that like Warpath is a little bit of a different theming than Whirlwind, which is more of I guess a reckless swing type attack that you'd see in a barbarian class. If you don't have a strictly barbarian class, but you know there's room for let's maybe get added in theming wise. Yes, you do not have a proper build planner for this. If you've the build command will not show what I'm actually doing right now, unfortunately. I don't know how to change that quickly. Yes, I am working towards a Druid. I'm kind of just leveling my Druid right now. Gonna play Werebear Swarmblade. Gonna try and do like a real dot heavy build. See how it works, see how it feels. Do you expect the game to have some sort of currency that will be used in trades such as PoE orbs or D2 runes? I expect that currency to be gold. So yes, but kind of no. Man, when Berserk is fully stacked up, he just gets going. Does not let up. It's great. All right, I discovered a bug where Holy Aura's each second consumes stacks of the Paladin's passive that increases heal effectiveness every 3 seconds. We got bug reporting over on our forums. Please do it there, as it can be tracked and recorded and resolved and updated and all that good stuff. Still waiting for the Barbarian class. Yeah, there's there's definitely no similarities anywhere in the game with any sort of Barbarian class at all. Alright. Speaking of feedback, has there been any feedback relating to dungeons that the team has found actionable for future iterations or even changes to the current dungeon? Yes. We're not quite ready to share exactly what that's going to be yet, but because we're still working on fleshing that dungeon system out as a whole. I think that's really good.
It's been quite a day, you know.
Yeah, Rick, you've been working hard. Sorry, he gets me. Yeah, there's been a ton of great feedback about dungeons. I think it shows that it was a really good decision for us to release just one on its own first, before we designed and built all the other ones to go with it. There's I don't really want to get into too much specifics because I'm not really sure exactly what we're going to be doing to it yet. We're still designing the follow-up dungeons that are going to come in, but yeah, they will get influenced based on the feedback we're getting. I think one thing people really want, when some feedback I've been seeing a lot recently, is having some sort of like really uber endgame fight, like the D2 Ubers, Uber Elder, you know, things like that, where it's a statically defined, difficult fight. And I think that T4 Julra is kind of like an early version of that. It's like, oh, I always use D2 references as examples, but like, can you kill? Can you do like meth farming, like hell meth farming, or like can you do D2 or like Chaos Sanctuary farming and kill Diablo and stuff like that. And there's some good results from having a statically defined difficulty on a boss, and there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. It's not fully static, but it's not infinitely scaling. But it's not as hard as those Uber contents where players are looking for like really challenging content, and people who have extremely high tier gear where they're mostly legendaries and they're like really like top tier builds and everything. It's still not I don't think it's quite difficult enough for those people, and that's fine. I know maybe some of them were hoping for that, but that's not what we wanted that boss fight to be. So we're quite happy with this spot that it is sitting. But I think it does go to show that we do really need that sort of like statically defined difficulty boss that is really hard. Provides a nice benchmark for builds to be like, oh, this build can do this content. And I think it also it's good for like viability definitions. So quite often we see people like requesting builds on Reddit's the thing I look at the most with our social platforms, but even on our forums too and things like that. It's like, is this build viable? Well, viable for what? And I think that having those statically defined benchmarks is really good for defining what viable means in the context of the game. Alright, any hints or teaser comments or lack thereof for the final Paladin skill? So we do have something planned for it right now. We do have we have like a list of all the skills we're going to use, and there's something in that spot for the list right now. I'm less confident that list will stay the same up to the point that it actually gets made than I was a year ago. So it's possible that that list, the skill that's there might not be the one that actually is released. So I don't really want to go too heavy into what it is. But it will fall into that holy warrior theming very heavily, because it is like an end tier. It's the last skill in the, like, it's the one that goes, sorry, it's also missing there for the shaman, but like here and here, like it's deep in the tree, I think. There's a lot of stuff that goes into, just in general, like you may also notice that Healing Hands doesn't have a tree. We do plan to keep to give Healing Hands a tree. There's a few tricky things with that we gotta shore up before we do it. Where's my monk? Well, you know, we don't like to have every single class archetype represented right away, because maybe we want somewhere to grow in the future. So he's in his dojo training. Can you explain how swarm strikes scale? From my understanding, there's a first hit that scale with physical damage, then depending on how many locusts are around you, do a poison dot AoE. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not sure what you're missing, because sounds like you've got a great handle on it. Do those abilities get shown anywhere? Locust Swarm, but not Swarm Strike itself. What is going on? These are all over the place. Yeah, there's no tooltip for it here. But yeah, you basically got it. I'd have to get into that form to actually show it. It's tooltip. Last question coming from me. Do you guys, are you guys planning something like LE Companion, like other games have PC mobile for your characters and builds? New year, new teasers. Also, it's a different question. I'd love to. Oh, sweet! I mean, I do love Fighting Chance, but you know what? That's naturally found the 2-piece. It's kind of whatever, but yeah. That's hilarious. All right, let's go. Sorry. Explain. Companion app of some sort. Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic. We don't have anything planned for it right now, specifically. We are really working on getting the game out, making the game as best we can. But yes, we are. I'd say we're interested in something like that. Ooh, Ring of Ascendance. I'll take it. Don't die on me now, Wolfie. New year, new teasers. I got nothing in the way of teasers for you guys. I'm sorry. There's not a lot going on with teasers right now. We're still working out the new patch. What's gonna happen with that? We're putting a ton of work into multiplayer right now. It's really like what needs the most work. We have to get it done. And so we're spending a lot of time on that. That's a primary focus right now. I mean, it has been for a while, but like it's everything we've got. We've got to just get it as solid as possible, as fast as we can. There was a lovely bug where if you did exactly what I just did, where if you Werebear charged into, oh, it still was there. It's gonna be like, I fixed it. It's so great. Still there. Dang it. Oh, let's just get some more 2-minute strength. Oh, okay. We could probably work Maelstrom into this. I think it'll be good. All right. Any new leagues? Yeah, I don't got much. I'm sorry. I'll try and get some. I'll try and get some artwork, because that's a lot of that stuff doesn't get. There's not really a. Art doesn't have to stop or slow down at all for multiplayer development. So I'm sure there'll be lots of good artwork designs and stuff like that that I can grab some teasers for coming up. But yeah, just post patch. The few streams post patch are always a little teaser light. I have been seeing some really cool builds pop up. There was one on our forum, and it really cracked me up. Some keen-eyed user, I could probably have gotten his name, and I'm sorry if it's whoever it is. Full credit to whoever this was. I'm sorry, I don't know who it was. They noticed that our town portal, or portal ability, by pressing T, by clicking this button down here, that is actually an ability. That actually functions exactly the same as every other ability on your bar. It has a cast duration. It has it counts as you using an ability. It can trigger things, and they were finding things to proc on portal use. And so they're trying to make a build that all you ever did was use portal, and it procced abilities from various sources, causing you to be able to actually do damage. And I think this is just hilarious. Like, it's possible. It could technically work. Oh my god, it's gonna be hard. And whoever you are, if you're doing it, oh, I want to know how it goes. I want an update post. I want to hear your struggles, because I think it's gonna be just hilarious. It probably also won't work forever. I will say that, because sometimes when there's something that like it really doesn't add much to single player at all, but can cause a lot of problems in multiplayer, repeatedly portaling over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, I could see having some issues in multiplayer. So I'd say there's a good chance we might do something to make that build not as useful as it currently is. Which I know sounds ridiculous, like nerfing a build that's just awful anyways, but sometimes things need to be done in the name of performance. Alright. Is the monk going to be a fearsome llama monk rather than a silly fat panda monk? What, you don't like WoW's monk? I do not know what will happen if we add a monk class, how that will happen if it does happen. It's a long way out. I will say, Llama, now that you're here, my mom got my son a little rocking chair thing for Christmas because she thought it would be funny, and it's it's a little weird. We all thought we couldn't really tell what animal it was because it's kind of not really anything. Turns out we found the tag. It's a llama. I have a rocking llama in our house right now. Like a rocking horse, but smaller and furrier. Kind of weird. Oh, that regen, leech, whatever it is, keep me alive. Pet's just on the cusp all the time. Open sesame. Don't worry, I won't go in there without you, bud. We'll res you. Can't bear to leave them behind. Come on. With your 2-piece now, do you think sets are in a good place as they are, or do you have plans to update them more or give them their own legendary system? I think sets are in kind of a weird spot right now. I think sets are one of the most difficult item types to do well. And I genuinely like can't really point to a fantastic implementation of them across the board in any game. There's a few times when it does work really well, scattered about here and there, but so often it just oof. I'm gonna ask for a picture of the rocking llama. Okay, 1 second here, I'll get it. My gosh, it is far down on my phone. Okay, I may have to find this later and post it. Sorry. I'll find it for next stream. 2-piece sets. Yeah, I think sets need some work still. We're still working on it. There's a lot of really interesting things that sets can do. Creating that interdependency between gear, and having this puzzle that you need to solve of what gear goes where in that puzzle, I think is really good. And I think sets create a really interesting piece to that puzzle. So I'd really love to see sets having a role long term. I have no idea what that is exactly. Oh, thank you, Lone Star. We got Lone Star McFluffin has resubbed for 8th month in a row. My goodness. We're coming in with a rating party of 22 people. Thank you very much. Welcome to the party, everybody that just joined us from McFluffin stream. I saw your University 2 videos. Very nice. If anyone's looking for a good resource to just learn some stuff about the way the game works and find out some weird quirks that you may have overlooked or misunderstood, great resource. We have so many awesome content creators, and like, I wish I could call out every single one of your videos that you make. What is the meaning of it? Such betrayal. But yeah, you guys do such great stuff. I like the video production quality of everything and how much work you guys put into it. It's just amazing. Like, it's really cool to watch. I like it. Makes me happy. Is it intentional that when you give Spriggan totems, Thorn totems passives, that the Spriggan totems don't gain any damage scaling tags? No, and I think we just fixed that. Personally have been enjoying Forge Guard since the tweaks a few patches ago. Out of curiosity, are the devs happy with Forge Guard as it is now going forward into launch? I mean, there's going to be small little tweaks as we go forward all over the place in every single character for sure. And little things like just a new unique coming into play can have huge implications. Also, just like whatever rewards come in the next dungeons and any other in-game systems, like all of it can change without making any changes to the actual class itself. So overall, I guess that's not really the question I was being asked. Overall, I'm very happy with how Forge Guard is right now. I mean, I think I'm a little easier to please than a lot of people, though. So, you know, if anyone out there isn't happy with something like that, we are always listening to feedback. Forums, Discord, Facebook, Reddit. I don't know why I keep saying Facebook. I never go on our Facebook. You know what? I just want some health. This area is tough. This is one of those zones that, first time anyone gets to this zone right here, like almost everyone dies the first time they get here. So, let's see if I can survive. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how Forge Guard's playing right now. I think it's getting a little that theming. I think is getting stronger, and it's a really hard theming to hit nicely, sitting between Paladin and Void Knight. Paladin and Void Knight are way stronger fantasies. I know Void Knight's new, but like that Fallen Paladin style definitely it has roots all over the place. And I think Forge Guard has less iconic roots in like gamers' minds. Like just looking at WoW classes, you've got a Paladin class and a Death Knight class, but there's no just like Forge Guard style. Like there's no direct analogy there. And there are similarities in a few other games that have a lot more classes, but it's definitely lower down the list than many others, usually. Oh. Yeah, this is taking some beats here. So yeah, getting that fantasy to sit right and have it feel unique and good and interesting is difficult with Forge Guard compared to the other two there, and a lot of other classes just in general. But I think it's come a long way, and I'm really happy with how it's progressing. And I think it feels good. I think it plays good. I think that's the most important part. Alright, is it intended that debuffs from Ravenous Void Rifts double dip potentially 1 to 80% increased damage taken? No, and I think we just fixed that too. I saw someone talking about that. I think we've got a fix for that coming. You know, I probably actually could use one of these, and my inventory is just full. Don't die me now. Yes, we're doing this. Yeah. Nailed it. And we're not going to follow the form either. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Alright. Town portals functioning as skill has been reported as a bug ages ago. Yeah, I know, it was the first time I saw a post where someone was like, I'm gonna make a build out of this. And like, I found a way and I've got a plan and here it goes. And like, most of the people on the thread were like, you're an idiot. and it's gonna be terrible. And and they know that. They know it's gonna be awful. But I just love that people are finding these weird interactions and ways to do things and are actually like setting out on missions to accomplish them in weird ways. I think it's really cool. I know it's not the first one to do anything like that, but it was the most fleshed out one I'd seen. It's really cool. Another question, there is this one spot in Ancient Timeline. Ooh, what's this ever called? Another one, that's weird. Ancient Townland where you can smash some rocks and get into a little secret map. Will this place have functionality in the future? Maybe. So tempted to just like make ever. So the jerk answer to that question is, who says it doesn't have a function now? Not what I'm saying, just for the record. But we try and hide things in the game as much as we can. Little secrets and tidbits. I saw a post this morning about the floor in the Emrest, the space between monoliths, where there's like the chest and the reward and the stash and everything. On the floor, there's a clock symbol with a couple hands, and it points at like 11. Because it's 11th hour games, and so like there's little things like that. We hide things all over the place, and we will continue to do so because I love it. That's the one I want. This. Oh, we got SGO84. 048. SGO48. That's, yep, got there first try. Reading's my forte. Resub 4 months in a row. Thank you very much. Glad to have you with us. And we've also got Dragonflies 1202. Resub for 3 months in a row. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Glad you all are having fun. I'm a little, there we go. Yeah. Alright. I mean, the dual flat is really nice, but, I mean, that might be worth taking a look at. And we got Drazy, 1974. Thank you very much. Got your first sub on us. Glad to have you with us. Welcome, welcome. All right. Yeah, Rocket Llama. There you are, Llama. Yep. I always said you're the best dev no matter what Rhymer Art says about you. What did Rhymer say about me, huh? I don't know why I shouted back to back there, but it was highly effective. It's something. Alright. Do you have any build playstyle recommendations for leveling towards Druid and beyond? I'm a newer Epoch player. Let me just keep killing stuff. I'm a newer Epoch player. And most builds I've seen give you a good starting point at later levels. Vague direction on skills leveling early, but haven't found anything that I can use to help me get to later points and provide a smoother leveling experience. Yeah, there are some leveling guides out there for sure. I know I've seen Boardman21. He's got some leveling guides that'd probably be great to follow. I think McFluffin has a few as well. Thank you very much. Arrowword has gifted Rhymer Hearts a sub. Rhymer's one of the devs as well. He's here in chat. Say hi, everyone. That's funny. Thank you very much. Leveling playstyles, yeah, for sure, especially with Druid. So what I'm doing right now is extremely solid. I have not taken any gear from my stash. I've done a tiny little bit of crafting. I made a weapon and just bumped up a few things. Everything else I just found while leveling this character. And it's working really well so far. I'm just cruising through stuff, which is fantastic. This is my skill setup here. I would recommend this build for leveling. Personally, it's feeling fantastic. Bear gets buffs. Bear Swipe gets to use your swipe and your war cry just right off the bat. So putting these three together is really natural and just is inherently really synergistic. You can also get your Maul ability to use your Fury Elite skill tree for this one. Yeah, Fury Elite benefits from Maul. I should probably be pathing to that quicker, shouldn't I? Yeah, I should be pathing to that way quicker. I wonder why I'm not. You know what? We're gonna just yeah, we're gonna take some points out. So what I just did there was I just took points out to it de-leveled the skill, but the skill will gain accelerated experience because now it's below where the skills are expected to be for the level that I am. So I'll get enough to get there really quickly. So that'll use Fury Leap's skill tree as well, and that will help. And for passives, it's just like take stuff that gives you stats and helps you inform. This is a mess as well because there's way too many points invested here. It could be way higher, and I've got a point that I'm missing. It's my build's a bit of a mess right now. I guess the point that I'm getting at is, even with a bit of a mess of a build, you should still be totally fine for the most part. With things that are generally just roughly synergistic with each other. I think if you do sets and more than 2 or 3 items, you actually hinder the player experience with set items because they require too many items. Yeah, there's this sweet spot, and the number of gear slots that you have in total affects the number of the size of sets you can do without causing problems. So the example I'll give here, Diablo 3 has many more. I think many more. They have definitely more gear slots than we do. They have. Maybe it's not that many. They've got bracers and shoulder and pants, but we have a relic. So they only have 2 more than us, I guess. But still, that 2 is a fair bit when you consider how many there are total. It's like 20% more slots. So they can have bigger sets and have less of an impact. I know that mostly going through a bunch of your heads right now is I hated sets in D3 because they feel mandatory. Yes, and that's actually a slightly different story, but that's not what I'm getting at. It's just the size of those sets is easier to be bigger when you have more item slots, and that's why most of our sets are in that 2 to 4 range. I think 4 is the biggest set we have. I don't even know if we have one that big. Usually they're 2 to 3. And sometimes we've planned a few of these. I don't know if we've done this ever, actually. But having 2 items in the same set occupy the same slot, so you can't actually get the full set. We wouldn't give a set. We wouldn't be like, oh, there's 4 items in the set, and there's a 4 set bonus, but you can only ever equip 3 no matter what. We wouldn't put a 4-piece bonus if we did that. It would only be a 3-piece bonus. But I think there's some interesting stuff there, where you can get more items in the set, but you can't equip them all simultaneously. This has a lot of potential to be really amazing. It's pretty cool right now, and I want to do more like scripted story events in game like this, but it's not as awesome as it could be yet. Sanctuary Reaper asks, any info on next patch?
My flames will scour this place.
Watch here, get his ass handed to him by Raya. Boom!
Pathetic.
I do not have much longer. Go north. Retrieve the lance.
Who are you supposed to be?
No! I was too late.
Any info next patch? Next patch, yeah, it's gonna be. There's not a lot that we can say about next patch yet. We've got a lot of stuff to work on still, for sure.
Stronger now.
But we'll try and get the
My honor.
we've got a little like infographic that we use that we update each patch, and right now it's very out of date because it doesn't show. Should we do this or should we just go? Yeah, let's just go. It doesn't show the exact. It doesn't show the current patch info. It shows last patch's info stuff right now. But we'll look to update that. And hopefully I'll have more info to share with you soon on this front. I think I should be looking at some new boots. I got some good ones, but I mean that's a good start, isn't it? Here, let's take a brief breath. Let's see what we can do to these boots. And I just need higher level to forge them at all. Bum, 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 bum. Wow. Don't forget to @ me if you want a question asked. Yes, that is a good advice. Let me see what that was referencing to. Question above. Got it. What is the dev's philosophy on builds that are so powerful they trivialize content but require very rare gear gated behind RNG or difficult content? It's a very difficult question to answer. I think almost any build that completely trivializes like all content, if there's a build that trivializes all content, I think that's really not healthy for the game. Even if it requires insane gear, like I don't think that's really the distinction. And I mean, okay, so trivializes content significantly more than any other build out there. So if there's one build that is like, if there's one build out there that say takes 5 seconds to beat the hardest content in the game, and the next best build takes it 10 minutes to beat that content, that is a discrepancy that is too high, and something needs to be done to bring that in line. And really, it's less about. It's the biggest reason for that is that there needs to be a player choice in how you're going to make your character, how you're going to build your character, all these sorts of things. And if one build out there is way better than literally everything else, it makes that choice kind of an illusion. Because a lot of people, when they're designing their build, picking a build from what's available, they're not designing their own. It's quite often looked at of which one's the best. And if the answer to that question is really obvious, and really just, well, it's this one. This one's the best because it does everything the fastest, you know? That's when there's a problem. And the goal usually when we're in a situation like that, and quite often when you're in a situation like that, and it exists and it's out there, a lot of people start playing it, a lot of people start really liking it and having fun with it. And I think the important thing is to, I guess, bring builds more into line with each other. And that doesn't necessarily mean just dropping one, possibly that can mean bringing others up as well. And it's really something that depends on the situation. And I think the most important thing is not having swings be too big. So taking a build from being the absolute best thing you can do by a mile into it just can't even do endgame content is damaging too. So we try and do our best to make builds, to make there be as much choice as possible when selecting a build, of as many viable options as there are out there, and at the same time not destroy things that people have been playing. I think the good example of this is the EQ Werebear build. There's a weapon, Baldur's Wrath, that gives, okay, here we go, that makes it so whenever you use a non-channeling movement ability, it uses Earthquake. And initially people were able to make a werebear build with the old werebear, where you could proc Earthquake like every half second. It was just like Earthquake, 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 constantly, all the time, and it was insane. And it like moved crazy fast, and like it was nuts. We've taken a swing at that build like 4 times now, changing how it works, putting cooldowns on things. Like there's so much we've done to nerf that build. But we've really tried to be careful, and after any of the nerfs we've done, check to make sure the build still works, and just doesn't just trivialize content, but is fun to play and is still functional and all sorts of things. And it still is. Like, it's still very strong. So I think that was successful. I could be wrong. Oh, the radius, the player radius probably doesn't change when you're in werebear. Interesting. All right. Thoughts? Let's get back to another question here. Kind of rambled there for a bit. Sorry. Thoughts on 5-piece sets that have strong 2 or 3-piece bonuses that are really fun to figure out which 2-3 pieces are best to plug in. They can give 5-set bonus a good effect for people who want a bit more of a plug and play, as long as the 5-piece isn't a must build like D3, for example. I always have fun with that style. Yes, and I think Tal Rash's set in Diablo 2 is a perfect example of exactly what you just said. Like, word for word, that's Tal Rash's. It works great like that. 3-piece is fantastic. You go neck, chest, belt. You get an awesome magic find bonus in 3-piece. Your amulet gives you the two skills like Mara's does. There's some lightning res, but it's not all res. There's a few other stats there. Chest is pretty good. Tons of defense. There's better options for the chest, but it's got tons of stats on it, so it keeps you good. And the belt's just high magic find, decent belt. Like, there's not a lot you're giving up there. And the Arachnids get the cast speed on there, but it's still a decent belt. And the 3-piece bonuses you get for all that, there's cast speed in the 2-piece bonus, I think, on the belt as well. And so you end up with a really good 3-piece core to put into your build, so you can still use Hodo on your weapon, so you're not using the Tal's weapon. You can still use Shaco on your helmet, and you're not using Tal's helmet. But if you want, you can then go to 5-piece, and there are some other bonuses there. The weapon and the helmet aren't very good on their own, but the 5-piece makes up for that a little bit. So like you still see full Tal set Sorks running around, and it works. That's one of my favorite examples of a set done well. I think that's the best set I can think of in an ARPG, which is almost exactly what you said. And it is quite hard to get. The chest is super duper rare. But yeah. Yes, I think that's great. I think that is there more slots there anyways too? Neck. Do I actually have more slots than them? I'm trying to picture it now, and all I can think of is the weird Path of Diablo layout, and I just can't quite see it properly. Will there be additional passives added onto the tree? Oh yeah, we take away passives, we add new passives. There's actually in the layout there are 2 extra rows that are functionally actually there, that are just turned off. So there is room for more passives to go in that tree really easily. We can toggle on an extra row, no problem. We do like having that symmetry of a row in the middle. And we're really liking 5. Like, it feels like a good amount. You can get nice patterns and things. Like, you see the symmetry of this, like, coming up to the side, and this coming up to the side. And it's not perfect, but you get that little bit of, those distinctive looks pretty easily, and you can start to get the feel for the shapes of the trees. 7, it gets a little more cluttered. But there are some classes that really do benefit from a lot of options, because there's a lot of varied ways to play them. Oh, sorry, I clicked on Shaman. Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep adding passives for sure. Sometimes it'll be replacing, sometimes it'll be just adjusting, sometimes it'll just be adding new ones. I personally love Forge Guard's kit, and there isn't a fully defined by minion use. And yeah, and there's an interestingly large amount of minion stuff in the Forge Guard kit.
Farewell.
But it's not. I think I know whose voice that is. um, yeah, it's an interesting kit. I do like it a lot. Do you guys have any stand on support roles in multiplayer? If this build wasn't too OP, pretty uninformed on Last Epoch, but pretty excited to get with some friends once it's up. Yeah, I think support play in an ARPG is really tough to do right. It kind of tends to either be, like, if we're talking about like a, from a competitive sense where you're pushing content and it's like the super top end stuff, it's tough to do right. And it's rare that it actually works. Or it ends up being unbelievably overpowered amazing, where it's just the only way to go. It seems to really, the pendulum swings far. It's kind of the feeling I have on it, of what I've experienced. And I think support is one of those roles that, and when I say support, I mean like healing, like purely CC, like purely buffing. Like there's all sorts of roles that support can take. It's not strictly just I'm a healer. That is one type of support, but it's not the only type. And I think the people who like to play these quite often really like to play them, regardless of if they're amazing or not. Like if they're like OP or the top tier or whatever. And I think there's a lot of people that really hate to play them, but feel like they have to if it is the top tier. So while we are putting a lot of skills into the game that can be used in support roles, like simple things like curses on Acolyte, or there are like there's lots of healing things you can do with Spriggan in. Oh my god, I died because I wasn't paying attention. Whoopsie. There's a lot of healing stuff you can do, and like Paladin has healing hands, and there's Holy Aura, and we're seeing lots of interesting things in multiplayer testing with those abilities already. And I think there's lots of opportunities for support to be really fun. And there was some guys that were playing, someone was playing Holy Aura and someone was playing a throwing build. And so the Holy Aura player wasn't even playing a throwing build, but he was taking the throwing nodes on it specifically to help the person that was playing a throwing build. And I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I think what I'm long-winded way of saying is we want support to be a thing that people can play, but we don't want it to be mandatory to take into a group. So we don't want you to be like, okay, who's my tank, who's my support? Like, we don't want this, like, the Holy Trinity is not something we're working towards. We're not trying to be, okay, you got like 2 DPS, a tank, and a healer, and that's your party. No. It's, you have some people that want to play together and maybe try and make some synergistic builds if you can, but have fun. One of these days I'll get a specially named wolf. Probably won't happen because I keep trying to save them. I'm a special boy! Alright. Is Upheaval's interaction with Thorn Totems an indication of upcoming design philosophy around Shaman using Thorn Totems like a generator resource to power more powerful abilities? It's pretty prevalent throughout Upheaval's skill tree, whether going for Totem or Shatter based. I don't think that's a necessarily something that's going to carry over into other Shaman skills so much. I think that's an Upheaval thing. But maybe. It's kind of cool, I think. Totems don't have the same... so one of the things in Necromancer, we do try and use your minions as a resource because it's less about this thing, it's not less about this living thing that you've summoned to help you on your journey that you're working towards. It's more of a thing you've created to serve a purpose for you. And sometimes that purpose is exploding. This is the reason why we don't have lots of things in here. Like whenever a companion dies, you get a buff. And I mean, like there's the sort of like the morning rage type buff theming, but we don't want to encourage people killing or sacrificing their own minions on the Druid Beastmaster primals in general. But totems I think have a little bit less of that. There's not that connection there. It's still a thing. It's a what, not a who. If that makes any sense. So maybe. I love this no rage decay out of combat. So we call a 1-point wonder node. Okay. My new computer just arrived, so I can properly play your wonderful game. Awesome. Congrats. New computers are hard to come by these days in some places. Where are we going here? Ice Barrage plus Lightning Strike totally overwhelm my old rig. Yes, there's a few things that will put so much on screen that will cause a problem with a lot of systems. Oh my goodness me. That was my face, guys. Sustain, sustain. Revive, revive. My goodness me. What is this sorcery? Holy. Holy. Woo! Some tough stuff there. We got it. Got it. We're not gonna be going crit, but we do have some crit stuff right now, so I'm kind of tempted to take that, but I think I just want some health. Alright, yeah, we're getting down there. Just want that to actually work finally. Totally forgot I had to do that. There's one unique that is completely useless. Scales of Eterra. What was the reason of doing it? That was actually a supporter unique. I don't think it's completely useless either. D2 had the same slot amount and ran 4 sets pretty okay, but that was very restricting, like the 2-3 sets, as it gives more options in other slots for gear. I know that in the D2R podcast that happened recently, the interview that they had with the dev team there, they were talking about how they were going to change that up. Let's just warp back, right? How they're going to make some... I think they were talking about making some sets more viable. Because you get sets like Griswold's, which is... there's a ton of sockets in it, great. But it really sucks. And it's supposed to be the Paladin equivalent of Towels. But it's just, it's just not, because it sucks. Right? Those. Don't need those. Wrong class. Get rid of those. We got the set. No move speed. Poo poo. Nah. I actually like that chest.
I see.
Started dumping a tab recently. There's the tab I started dumping. Wait, I was gonna look at my shields. I don't mind putting stuff in the stash. Never gonna look at it. Alright, All right, there's another question here. Sweet, thank you so much for the info. I'm absolutely loving the game so far. It's so far above and beyond other games I've played in the same genre. Thank you very much. It feels polished, and the attention you give towards player agency and how character feels as they play is heartwarming to me. Between that and your close ties to the community, I'm officially a fan for life. Glad to have you with us. Thank you very much. You seem to be picking up exactly what we're putting down. All right, let's go travel. Where are we going? That way? We're going this way, that way, forwards, backwards, over the Irish Sea. A bottle of juice to give us a boost, and that's the life for me. Na 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 na. The whole song keeps going. All right. I'm a burr. Didn't see that coming, did you? Haha. Maybe you did. I don't know. Oh, get my buggy boys. The big one. There we go. Look at all those ice beetles go. I will follow you, ice beetles. Show me the way to victory. Alright. Is Spriggan's Garden of Rage, Rage per Vine, plus Werebear's Skull Crusher, Fury Leap applies to Maul, plus Fury Leap's Rise and Poisonous Thicken Vines when jumping intended, if not, forget I said anything. Probably. There's a lot of nodes there. I definitely don't know what they all do off the top of my head. So it's probably jumping, dropping a ton of vines, buffing them a whole bunch, giving you tons of poison damage or something, and then like cranking your rage into the stratosphere. We definitely tried to make as many interplays between the Druid forms as we could and have it still make sense. So probably. If you think it's a bug, you should report it as a bug. Yeah. If you want. You don't have to. Alright, turning from builds but more to skill trees, what would about skills in which the same tree path is overwhelmingly and by far the most common path? Thorn totems going full armor shard memories of Eterra come to mind particularly. Yeah, there's some skill trees that it's a really similar thing. Similar answer really. We kind of want to balance skill trees against, like, skills as a whole against each other, and then balance paths in the skill trees against each other. So yeah, there are some skills that was just me jumping the wrong way. I don't know what that was. I think there are a few skills in a few nodes and a few skill trees that are just like, well, that's clearly the best. Why would I take anything else ever? And sometimes that's just a problem that we need to fix. Sometimes it's that the most popular build really emphasizes that, but there are other builds out there that do work well with other parts of the tree. So sometimes it's a false flag, but usually it's pretty clear when it's happening. And I think you've identified a good one. Most of the time, whenever there's like a node that's like, give me more of like like multiplying the number of things I can get, it's quite frequently really strong, and people take it. Love that animation. It's so good. When will we be able to refund all of our passes at once? Great question. Don't have an answer. Sorry. Are certain stats debuffs designed to be different in multiplayer and single player? The specific example that comes to mind is crit vulnerability, that the current values would be OP in multiplayer, but if you balance the debuff in multiplayer, it may seem useless in single player. There's probably going to be a few things like that we have to take a look at. We really want to avoid functionality changing from single player to multiplayer, like inherently changing. And I think part of that is part of that is having like build guides show up that are like, this is a single player only build and this is a multiplayer only build. I think it's gonna happen, but if we can limit those where possible, I think that's a smart thing to do. And I think what you're describing there is a place that we can probably limit that from happening too much, but we'll see. Can Primalist support companions get a late game scaling option? Taking a minion for its buff tree, but making it harder to keep my buff alive as I progress feels punishing for getting better. Yeah, that's a good point. The minions do get a lot of their survivability comes from just massive health from level. That's like the main portion of their survivability. Yeah. So sometimes, yeah, there's sometimes places where it becomes a little too much. I think if the main, like, if one of the main ways to keep that minion alive in late game, in like super late game stuff, is like leech for that minion's self, it can be tricky. We may just need to have some other alternative options, like things where when you use a potion, it heals your minions as well, and when you use like the war cry right there, I just healed them. Maybe that needs to be stronger or something like that. But having alternate ways to keep them alive, I think, is really good, where it's not necessarily reliant directly on the tree itself, so that you can use them as more of a buff stick than a than like a damage dealing. If the lack of damage dealing is what's not keeping them alive. Now I will say these ones here, you see them dying a lot. They're completely unspec'd, and I have 0 stats in them that help keep them alive at all. Like, I have no increased minion health on my gear. I have no increased minion health in my stats anywhere. You know, like, or in my passive anywhere. I am really not using them to their full effectiveness at all. I really want to get bear going, actually, but I found the claw, and I was like, yeah, I got more wolves. I should just put another neck on and go bear. Alright. Can you speak any more about why you don't want us making filters that allow us to only see exactly what we want? Yeah, this question goes on for a bit, but I can definitely talk for that for a little bit. Let's finish the question here. I'm just going to not look at the screen for a sec. What we want, this is in regards to the stance you posted in the forums a few weeks back regarding legendary potential filtering, but also having more lines, but also applies having more lines. I think something got deleted in an edit there. Is it a psychology dopamine hit thing? To a lot of people, it feels like an anti-quality of life mindset that gives us flashbacks to certain other ARPGs. It is also really disrupting to pause mid-echo to evaluate items, even for a second. Yeah, okay. So there's not a ton this isn't something that's set in stone. I just want to say that first. So like, it's not like this is a this is never gonna happen. First of all, it's really hard to take away. I also think that the term quality of life is misused here. But I can understand why it's being used. I think quality of life as a term itself, I'm not a huge fan of. It has some implications as something being quality of life is strictly better. Because you improved someone's quality of life, you make it better, right? Like that, there's some pretty heavy implications there. Just like something that improves quality of life is clearly better. And I understand that the term quality of life doesn't necessarily intrinsically mean better. And I think that in this case, it's not really a quality of life thing. But I understand why the term is being used. I think there's value in like having gear drop on the ground and having to either pick it up to look at it or do something. Like I think there's value in that experience of like, oh, gear dropped, let me see if it's good. Sorry. Excuse me. And if we get the loot filter to a point where you can quite literally make it only show the exact stuff you want no matter what, we completely lose the, oh, something dropped, let me see if it's good. And I know a lot of people don't want that. And that's fine. I'm not going to argue if that is intrinsically good or not, but that's something that we think is good, something that we like, is that feeling of something dropped, let me see if it's good. That experience, that process. Now, I think there's a point where there's too many things dropping, and having to look at everything to evaluate if it's good or not is really is a negative experience the other way. Oh, we got Vision GL. Welcome everyone here. We got a rating party of 114 people. Thank you for joining us. If you're just coming in now, this is a dev Q&A stream, so we are talking right now about loot filters and why we don't show legendary potential and a few other things in the loot filters right now. And there's some posts on the forums about this, but I think it partially what it boils down to a lot is having that something dropped, let me look and see if I want it, as being something that is a core mechanic and as a core piece of gameplay that we don't want to completely lose. Hey, beer. Beer is just a health potion, but yeah, it's a rare drop. There's another one too that some people that have been here for a while will be able to show you. And yeah, I'm leveling my druid right now to get into late game. So I haven't done a campaign run through on stream in a while, and some people asked for it, so I thought it'd be cool to do. I do really enjoy the campaign, actually, which I know is kind of weird. Yeah, sorry. So, getting back to what I was talking about, I think there's also another half of this, is that it's really easy for us to add things that are deemed as quality of life features. And I know I just went through a whole thing about saying how I don't think this is quality of life and everything, but we'll just use the term. It's really easy to add things that appear as quality of life features because it's looked at as, oh hey, you're just making it so streamline my play experience, you're saving my wrist, that sort of thing. And it's almost universally received positively, which is great. And we love doing things that people like to see, and we want to do everything that everyone wants to see. That'll be great. We can't do everything that everyone wants to see because there's conflicting requests, but we try what we can. The flip side of that is, it's almost impossible for us to remove something that's viewed as a quality of life feature without very significant negative sentiment towards the change. I do not know if I'm going to survive this! So sometimes, even if we're like, we think that's going to be a good change that people will like, if we're not sure, and it's something that if we know people will hate if we remove it, sometimes we'll actually hold off on the change. Until we're certain, until we're like, yeah, okay, this needs to happen for sure, or there's something else that means it has to happen. You know, like sometimes we'll be a little cautious or reserved with some of those changes, and that's something with the loot filter that we are a little bit cautious with adding things into, because it's really hard to take things away from these options and not have it be received very poorly. So the main goal, what we see the main goal of the loot filter is to reduce the total number of items you see to a manageable size where you can easily evaluate what you really want and what you don't want to pick up. And there might not be enough options there. There might need to be some more things that we put in. But we're trying to do it slowly and not just be, here's a script defined for literally every item in the entire game. Decide if you want it or not. Yeah. So there's things we want to add, and we haven't finished with it for sure. And we're always open to suggestions. If there's specific things you really want to see that you don't think would push it too far, I'd be a fantastic suggestion. Leave it on the forums. I do read all those. There's quite a few threads that have been put up about those. It's usually what I'm doing if I'm just hanging out and reading the forums. All right, let's keep going. I think I'm a little bit behind here. We're not too bad. Will your whole party be able to use Masochist mode together? We don't know exactly what we're gonna do with Masochist mode long term, but if it stays, I have no idea if it's going to stay or not, so please don't take this as a, we've discussed it and we're moving it. No. I got my camera on the wrong side too. If it stays, it would be a character define similar to hardcore, ladder, non-ladder, or league or whatever. And all characters would have to, I'm pretty sure we'd set it up so that all characters would have to have it or not. Type thing. It's kind of a weird setting. We added it years ago as kind of a bit of a joke, and there's like a few people that love it, and I think it's so cool that people are like taking this extra hard challenge on in the game, and it's really cool. We don't balance the game around it. We don't really take it into account much when we're making changes. It just sort of sits there as this like ultra hard variant that I think is really cool. Next question. There are many builds that require Orients, but 550 hours into the game, I can't even target farm it in the Age of Winter Empowered. Any plan to pity system where you get unique that you want after finishing 100 complete monoliths or something like that? The RNG wall feels so bad. Yeah. We try really hard to not make items that are super build defining and build enabling, build activating as being ultra rare. Or if we do, we try to have alternatives that you can utilize until you get there. So the Exsanguinous and the other chest that I can never remember the name of is a really good example of this. For a while, Exsanguinous was really hard to get. It's still easy, but then the other chest was significantly easier to get, and it had that same core unique ability where your health drains, and you get ward equals missing health and all that sort of stuff. But it didn't have a few other things that didn't make it quite as good. So you could still do a low life build, but you were still looking for that better version of your low life enabler. So maybe Oriens needs a lower power version of it, similar to what we did with Exsanguinous. Maybe it just needs to be less powerful. Maybe it needs to be less rare. Maybe it's fine. I don't know. But yeah, that's the sort of thing we do look at and we do care about. So what was the question about planned pity system? We really don't like RNG catch-up mechanics and pity systems in general. It might not be in the right place, though. Like, it might need to be target farmable. I don't know. That's a tough question to answer specifically about that question, about that item exactly, but in general, with pity systems, with RNG pity systems, we're not a huge fan. So, like, we don't do any sort of RNG pity system with the crafting or anything like that. Come on, what am I doing? Next question. So are you going to teach me about standing in craft, or shall I? Hi, Llama. I love standing in craft. Sometimes it feels nice and warm on my toesies. Will there be a closed beta for multiplayer or something, or will we just release it when it's ready? There will be a limited release multiplayer. Oh my gosh, there's a wow with no questions. That's cool. There will be a limited release multiplayer that we will start with a small population of our player base, and we'll ramp it up slowly. Few reasons for that. If we just said, here's the floodgates, open them, chances of us having horrible problems are really high. And so probably not just going to be like floodgates open first time we've released it to anyone type thing. But yeah. Oh, it gives you unlimited rage. I think it's a bug, but you might think it's OP. Yeah, having ways to sustain your rage isn't horrible. Yeah. Little birdie told me to expect Falconer next patch. Is that true? If it is, just give a non-committal answer. It'll be our secret. No. No.
Yes.
I will strongly commit to saying Falconer will not be coming next patch. Don't believe everything you see on TV. Except house hippos. Those are real. Sorry. On companions, I know minions get health from level, but once you hit empowered monos, they stop scaling. Yeah, like once your characters hit level 100, they do stop scaling. Yes. But there's still ways in gear that you can, and passive, that you can spec your character to make them more powerful, make them more tough and tanky. They might need even more. I don't know. It's tough to say. Like your defense, like you can get stuff from items that make them tankier, and that's the only way to make yourself tankier as well once you've hit 100. So it's kind of 6 of 1, you know. But there might still be an issue there. Here we go. Hello! Firefries LE. Oh, I'm getting my butt kicked. Hello! Oh, sweet. Keep trying to read this. Also, hello, Vision and friends of Vision. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Beer for bear. Yeah. Smashy smash. Whew. Guys got some heft to them. What are your thoughts on autocasting abilities using numlock? I don't like it. I think it's kind of a weird way of circumventing, like, playing the game. But it's not something that we're like you may have noticed that there's nothing in the game to stop you from doing it at all. There's no like warning, there's no like attempted anything to stop it really. Oh, it's my cold res. Yeah, this was kind of low too. Chances of me beating this boss, like 3 out of 500. My goodness. Do I just have? Can I sustain through it? The answer is no. No, I can't. We're gonna, you know, shore up some of our resistances here. We'll do a little crafting. Crafting break. Okay. This shield has the right stats, but is super duper old. Still got some forging potential to it, though. Reflected's kind of meh. I want this. I think I want the cold res. Slap some cold res on this. Didn't go great. You know, let's see what we can do here. Big hit. Tons of cold res. That might be just what we need to get through this, though. Yeah. Can we craft anything else? Does anything else have? It's us. Ellie res. Health. Can't probably craft anything else on this. Cold damage. Sure. We're using it. No. Do we care? No. That ring's kind of garbage for us, eh? That ring's too. Wow, our rings suck. I should just look at the forging bench before I put it on, shouldn't I? Oh, still a little bit. Okay. Let's give this another shot. Ooh. It's a bit of a different story, but not much. Okay, we can survive these. But it's just this, like, just gotta get out. See that llama? I'm not standing in stuff. Woo! Standing in some stuff, I guess. There we go. Nailed it. Let's switch out one of these rings, eh? They're just like movement speed. I'm like, yeah, take it. Nom 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 nom. Move speed.
In the name of Heroes, and on my
Alright. Do you plan to release the last 3 masteries close to multiplayer release? I feel they need to be balanced around each other. I mean, all of them need to be balanced around all of them, but we don't have a timeline for releasing any of them, sorry. All I can say is they're not coming next patch. Are there any OP Sentinel builds the devs have tested to be possible with the recent patches in the game public haven't found yet? Not that I can think of. Reimer will be able to answer that question better than I can, probably. But yeah, I don't think there's any, like, secret dev builds that were like, no one's found that yet. You all are so good at finding builds and making builds, it is nuts. Like, it's really cool to see. Nothing there. What am I doing? Trying to hurt yourself. Yeah, oh, what I say to myself every morning when I get out of bed. Here we go. All right, what's your philosophy on how much of the campaign we need to do per character? The current amount feels nice, but awkwardly little considering we don't even need to kill Lagan. Or where do you intend for the required stopping point to be once the whole planned campaign is ready? I think it would be good if the campaign was like play the whole campaign was important, but okay, not the whole campaign. Sorry. Dungeons. Let me start again. We really want everyone on their very first character to play through the whole campaign. It's the game we designed. It's a story. It's important to get introduced to certain mechanics. It's important to get introduced to your character properly. All these things, like playing through the campaign, is really designed to be the whole experience for a first-time player as it's normally supposed to be played. We know that experienced players don't always play through the campaign as you're supposed to, or as initially intended, or whatever, and that's totally fine. We want to use the dungeon system to create a build your own campaign. So there's more dungeons that we have planned, and the dungeon we already do have, Temple Sanctum, has a campaign skip involved. But it requires a key that you can't get until you're already past it anyway, so your first character can never do it. But follow-up characters can. So there's this campaign skip associated with it, and the other dungeons we're planning, we plan them around very specific points in the game to have campaign skips associated with them. And some that we've talked about have thank you to Sir Brodo Fraggins. I love that name. It just rolls right off the tongue. That's fantastic. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. Sorry. Where was I? Craft dungeons skips, campaign skips. Yeah. So but we also have one of the main things that as a reward in the campaign, as an incentive to complete the whole campaign, is the passives and this button. Passives and idle slot rewards. So there's 15 passives to be gained in the campaign and 8 idols to be gained in the campaign. Idle slots. Which unlocks all this. Speaking of, I've got some slots to work with. Love slots. And where was I going with this? That number's unlikely to change, but we do like adding in more, or if it does, it won't change much. We do like adding in more places to get those as we add in more campaign skips, such that you're being like, okay, well, I'm going to do that. For a more experienced player, they might be like, all right, my fire character is really good in this area and really bad in this area, so I'm going to do the skip that skips that, but I'm going to actually wait and not do this skip and do a different skip later, so I can get the idle rewards here and all stuff like that. So we're really designing it around a sort of build your own campaign system. Yeah. So I think that it's less about necessarily getting to the end every single time, but I think personally I'd like to see getting to the end be the norm. Maybe there's one thing at the very end of the campaign, because Lagan's not the end of the campaign. What the final campaign will be.
Even the gods cannot observe what fate intends for us. Do not let it bind you. Farewell.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yes?
Anyone can name that reference, I will be very impressed. Alright, where are we going? Yeah, I think that mostly answered that, hopefully. Mike finally learns that Avalanche is bad if only it were telegraphed. Avalanche kicks my ass. If you've been on this stream many times before, you will know that Avalanche is the bane of my existence and just wrecks me every time. I'm just like, it'll be fine. Just stand it and die. I've died more to Avalanche than any other skill by far. All right, that tree boss needs a new room. He always gets stuck up against the ice crystals, and potions get stuck inside it. Yeah, that was a little, wasn't fantastic. I think you're right. Might need to spawn further out. Not next patch, but the one right after that, right? I love the new interaction of Rogue with campaign. Other classes get closer, linked to the overall storyline. Yeah, I mean, I think there's, so we are looking at the overall story and campaign presentation as like as a whole a little bit more, and we're really trying to polish that presentation, improve integration of character story arcs into the main story, and have that experience be like more customizable and slightly different based on what class you're playing and all sorts of stuff. And so we're really trying to up our game in that, up our game, like up our, I don't know how else to say it. We're trying to be better in that category as a whole. And I think that a lot of times when you see new things we do on one class or one story or one chapter, it's stuff that we're like, let's see if this works. Oh, it worked? Let's do it everywhere. Not everywhere, but like, let's expand that system. Which class is next in line for some skill reworks tweaks? I do not know. I can't answer that question because I do not know. I think there's a few that are that, like, if we look at objectively together, we can sort of get a pretty good idea for ones that will be reworked sooner than other, like specific skills. And like, I think all you have to do is kind of look at the skill trees, and you'll see some that are a little bit more bare compared to some others. That was completely unintentional, but I heard myself saying it. There are a bunch of little hidden side areas not on the map throughout the campaign. Any plans to drop Easter eggs in there? Yeah, I'd say that our history of hiding things in the game would indicate that we might do something like that at some point. Who knows? Up our game seems like the perfect saying. Yeah, it's kind of confusing, but yes, I think it does work. That is one of the roles we were hiring for recently, was narrative design and presentation. Are there any plans for shared character corruption bonus? Currently, a character gets a corruption bonus to a new timeline until they reach the max of the previous timeline. This would be a major quality of life upgrade for alts. Yes, I think this is actually a really good example of quality of life used right. Yeah, I think that there's a wider discussion we need to have, and that is on the topics. It's like I typed it in as a topic for a meeting in the very near future. Just yesterday I was typing that in, and it's about shared progression, shared character progression, like on accounts, like what things are and aren't shared progression. And just taking a look at all of our different progression axes and seeing which ones we want to and don't want to have be shared. Because like one that is shared that might seem kind of like a weird thing, is that a progression axe? I mean, yeah, technically it kind of is stash. So right now when you unlock stash tabs on one character of the same types of softcore, hardcore, it unlocks all of them. So that is a shared axis of progression that we do already have. One that's really common that gets asked for is empowered monolith unlocks. So being able to say like, well, I unlocked empowered monoliths as a whole. Should I just be able to hop into empowered monoliths right away on my alts if I want? Maybe. It's something we haven't really talked much about yet, but we're going to talk about it. Another thing I've seen proposed is like, okay, if I complete empowered Spirits of Fire, I now can access empowered Spirits of Fire on any class that has Spirits of Fire unlocked just on its own. There's lots of different suggestions I've seen around this, and I have no idea if we're gonna go with any of them, but shared progression for alts in general is something we're talking about.
Yes.
All right. Has it ever been considered to introduce a pick up all loot in radius around your character button, less clicking, and LI? There's a typo in there somewhere. Yes, that button has been considered. I think it, I think it works a lot better when there's a, when there's an incredibly strict loot filters can be applied, which is kind of dangerous to do. See, an hour and a half ago in the conversation. And yeah, so maybe it's good if like things like that. Good idea to leave as suggestions on our forums or Discord. More people will see them. In here, you basically just hit me in Rhymer. All right. Any plans to tweak remove dodge as a penalty in Monolith? It feels really bad when you hit 2 or 3 in a row, making a mono almost impossible to do. It's not something we're really intending on removing right now. But like I just said as well, if you have suggestions like that, best to leave them in the on our like feedback and report suggestions threads and feedback threads and things like that we have. If you want to know why they're there, we sort of try to make it so that if you have like builds having weaknesses is a good thing. I know that sounds kind of contradictory and weird, but in general, builds having weaknesses I think is good. And by the dodge one, I'm assuming you mean the ones where like enemies can dodge, so builds that rely on hitting really consistently. Can't rely on hitting as consistently in there. Some of the combos fall apart a little bit, especially in a system where you can choose to avoid those. I think it's good because I think having builds that are generically good but maybe less powerful at certain things, and builds that are extremely good at doing specific things but have weaknesses in the sense of there's pitfalls they can fall into, things that they can run up against that are really not as easy to do but not impossible, is I think good gameplay because it puts the decision making, it's part of the decision making in that monolith loop that we want, where you're deciding if you want to do specific monos and you can avoid them if you don't like them, which is why we give the reward as such a clear I can't go into there, can I? Yeah, having those things in builds where it's like, okay, well, this direction is going to be really hard, so I can, if I like the things behind it and I want to get that way, I can, but if I really don't want to run up against that wall, I can take a different path. And that's a big distinction and difference between that and something like the arena, where it doesn't have those because there's not that choice, and dungeons don't have that because there's not that choice again. I don't think dungeons have that mod. And there's a little bit of choice there, but it's much less. There's only 2 options instead of usually 8 or 10 or 50. And we do have like we do want dungeons, and dungeons are a pretty bare bones system right now because there's only 1 dungeon, but we are building that system up, because it has been really well received, and we're really happy with the way it's performing. It's hitting almost all the stuff we wanted it to hit, which is fantastic to see. So we're looking to expand that system and to get more things worked into there, where it is sort of its own end game system instead of a supplementary system that it is right now, which we knew is what it would come in as initially, and so that's fine that it is that, but we want it to be more self-sufficient as we go forward. You beefy. You got some HP there, don't you, bud? But I got some claws. Everybody gets a revive. I was reviving multiplayer. It already works for reviving other people's pets. And the other day it was cool. I was reviving someone else's pets as a rogue, setting down smoke bombs to revive pets. It's cool. Why is my GPU running 20 degrees hotter on Ellie? It's not fully optimized compared to some other games that are out there. We're still working on it. We have, we can see the metrics. It is definitely getting better every patch. Frame rates are up, temperatures are down. We know it's not true for everyone. For those people, I am truly sorry that it's not working as well for you. I wish it would be just super easy to do and work perfectly for everyone. Unfortunately, different changes affect different computers differently, and there's so many configurations out there. There's literally billions of possible computer configurations out there. And being able to make it work with all of them is real hard. You can see why console development's so popular, because you know what hardware you're getting, you know what software you're getting. I just love a keyboard and mouse so much. Just can't get away from it. I do love controllers for like platformers though. Definitely controllers for platformers. For me. There's one of the guys, bit of attention, one of the guys that's like one of the really pro Super Mario Bros. Like the original one, speedrunner, he does it all keyboard mouse, or does keyboard, and like watching him, always has his hands in the videos that he does for it. He held the world record last year at some point, I think. Very briefly. Maybe he holds it now, actually, I don't know. Anyways, it's always crazy watching him do it, because his hands are just like, I look at it, I'm like, it feels so unnatural playing it that way, but it works for him so well, because he's one of the best in the world. Alright, is Swarmblade designed to be standalone form? Currently the tree can only make use of 3 other skills, and it feels like I'm forced to use them so I can have 5 skill specializations. I mean, there is some very heavy intrinsic bonuses to Wolf, Stormcrow, Bear. Like, those are Summon Spriggan, like 1, 2, 3, 4. You even go Scorpion 5, like that I'd likely say are probably not the ones you're referring to. So there's a few others there. Yes, it is designed to be able to be done standalone. Might need a little more. I said stay down! Berserkin time. There's a creator I haven't seen in a while. He was really early with us. Berserkin. He was around with like Kickstarter days. Alright, we got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to try and hammer out these questions, make sure I don't leave anyone hanging here. Have the devs considered adding Yeah, have those considered adding runes other than shadow runes to the in-game vendors? Same question for glyphs. We have. We chose not to. I'm sorry. The only one that we feel is really necessary to do any sort of crafting is your glyphs. Or not your glyphs, your shards. Shards are all you really need. Like, need to actually do it. Everything else is extra gravy. And yes, a lot of that extra gravy is very necessary if you want to have a good shot at very high-end gear. But the easiest way to have that be accessible, have the like core system be accessible, is to have Runes of Shattering be available so you can break apart gear that you find. At worst case scenario. So that's why that one's the one that's available. But we do want the runes and glyphs to be drop only for the most part. It might not be the final stance on it, but it's the way it is now. Especially with, like, we really don't want to incentivize people to just like log out, log in, go to the shop, log out, log in, go to the shop, log out, log in, go to the shop, because that sucks. It's boring. It takes forever. Ugh. Alright. What is the current purpose of the Gambler versus the Defender? I understand a leveling fallback, but they both are trying to fill that role at the moment. Yeah, the Gambler's in a weird spot. I don't have a good answer for you. I'm sorry. I think the only answer I can say is that you can select the base, like. There's potential for the Gambler to be really good for those leveling items. I don't really have a good answer for you right now. I'm sorry. The Gambler's been a bit of a stopgap that we've used in the past. So before we had the ability to target farm specific... Let me get that waypoint actually. Before we had the ability to target farm specific uniques, that was the way to do it. And it worked. It wasn't perfect, but it did its job. As we got more ways to target farm uniques better, it's definitely less appealing to. This is when we pulled uniques out of there, and it suddenly became kind of useless, which we agree. Yeah. Alright, not sure if it's been asked before. Is the shield going to be adjusted in the future? Is the shield? Oh, ward. Blue stuff, ward. I'm assuming is what you mean. I'm gonna read the question as ward. Is ward going to be adjusted in the future only because it seems most builds are better using using a shield in most cases than not using one. You were talking about just shields. We almost lost them, guys. We almost lost them. That was close. Maybe. Shields are quite good, for sure. It's less damage. People generally like taking more damage. Incentivizing people to take something other than more damage is difficult. And it's possible we swung too far in the other direction, but not sure. Always open to suggestions, so if you've got them, head over to the forums, Discord, Reddit, wherever you want. Feel most comfortable. Toss them in there. Alright. Do you plan to add a quick way to access all dungeons from the endgame hub area, whether it's in a time or potential hideout, instead of having to look for them in different places in the world map? Not right now, no. We actually really like the idea of bringing players back out into the world to do things. It's actually one of the main goals of the dungeon system. Did I miss earlier the answer on human druid, or did it miss your eye? I don't know what you're talking about. I may have missed it. Sorry. Just want to say the crafting tweaks this patch and legendary potential system are both awesome. Thank you. We worked a long time on those. Those changes, if you look back in the streams, there's like probably almost a year ago near the start of them that I mentioned something about those changes. We've been like kind of half ready to put them into a patch for a while now. And it just never quite came together, and we just keep tweaking it. And I think it was good that we waited until we did. And it's not been universal acclaim. It's been generally pretty positive. And there's still some things to work out with it, some tweaks to be made, but I'm really happy with it too. So glad you're enjoying it, because that's what it's all about. The only use for Gambler for me is if I need specific shards, just shatter items, I gamble. Yeah. There's some neat uses in there that you can get a little bit out of, but for the most part it's a little like, what's the point right now? For a lot of people anyways. As a follow-up to the Swarmblade question, the point that I'm trying to make is that the Werebear has 6 skills that it can make use of. It's 3 versus 3 in the Swarmblade. Yes. That is something we are aware of as a comparison. I think Spriggan has more than it too as well. If you've got suggestions as to specific ones you'd like to see be used for that, head on over to the forums or Discord or Reddit or any other platform and leave a suggestion there. The forums are really the best. There we go. That's that Berserk. Oh my goodness, it's just like, it gets going. Ramps up and you're just like, I am unstoppable. I just want to say you hit the point with last patch, changes crafting legendary potential. Made the item hunt so damn good, you guys can't stop playing Last Epoch. Awesome! Don't forget to go outside. The question on Human Druid was if you consider human the 4th form. Yeah. I have yet to see streamers use entangling roots in human form, and generally the tree feels weak, which is a sad thing for all the new art. Yeah, I mean... I would consider Human Druid the final form. It's not something that too much goes into, but yes, it's the 4th form. And we did put Entangling Roots there intentionally to allow it be a little bit more of a thing. Might need a little more love. That's okay though. Would you rebalance, reduce drop chance once multiplayer is unable to offset trade? Maybe. That's a humongous question that needs a lot of feedback. Especially because we don't know what the trade system exactly is going to feel like when we get it in there. We don't have any feedback on the trade system from you all yet. Like, there's a lot that really needs that. We are constantly looking at drop rates and balancing those. Yeah. Like, every time we add a new unique to the game, it shifts the drop chance of other uniques in the game. Like, so, yes, we will adjust the drop chance, but just because we have to add things to the game, you know? And I mean that, like, naturally it just does that the way the item rolls work. Like, if you drop a unique and it's choosing between 1 and 10, and then you choose between 1 and 100, it naturally reduces the drop chance of the other ones. Yeah. Alright, we are getting real close to the end of this stream. Can I just oh, I used the wrong ability. Get to the chopper. No, my wolves! You'll not have died in vain! All right, we've hit the end of the stream here. I just wanted to get to this waypoint. Oh, I also added. Here's a teaser for next for later. Something's coming next patch. You can in the monolith. So you know how in the world you can right click on. You may not know this, but you can right click on a waypoint in the world to go to that waypoint immediately. But you can't do it in the monolith. I've added it to the monolith. There we go. We got something. Yeah, I had a ton of fun this stream. It was great. I will try and come by with some more stuff to show you next time. Oh, well, a couple last things here. Any chance of putting in a lizard pet in the future, asking for a quiet friend? Maybe, you know, who knows? Thank you for streaming, loving the game. Keep me sane in these sad times. You can do it. I believe in you. I had a great time today. I hope you all did too. I will see you next time. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for asking great questions. We had a lot of really good questions today. It's a good stream for me. I enjoy the questions quite a bit.